In today's film, we're going to look at the 7 key steps you need to take to ace your next meeting.
When's the last time you did something stressful?
Does now count?
The first thing you need to do your recon. Not just on the individual you're meeting, but on the company, and beyond the usual Hollywood deadline and variety Googling. I would suggest you look at IMBD Pro. You can get a free month subscription. It provides a treasure trove of information on all the projects that these companies have in development, things that you won't see in the trade press. And what you're looking for, the job is to try and unlock the taste of the company and the taste of the individuals. And you also want to see where that individual has worked, what kind of projects they've been involved in, because they could be good talking points in your meeting. And it's not just on a project side you want to stalk them. See also what you can glean from the individual's various social media posts about the things they're passionate about. So if you watch Netflix's The Great Hack, which I really recommend, it's a pretty disturbing documentary about the Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Cambridge Analytica claimed to have 5,000 data points on every American voter.
Cambridge Analytica bots could tell within 3 posts whether you were a Hillary or a Trump supporter. You can find out all manner of stuff just by looking at what people post, which just prepares you for the kind of person you might meet in the actual office. And also bear in mind that anything that you put out on social media, they might look at as well. But once you get into the meeting, the second step, the most important step, is to be a human being.
I'm human.
You've been a stalker, now be a human being. And I used to get this really wrong. My co-writer and I, we would go out for meetings in LA, the water bottle tour. You have 5 meetings a day, 2 weeks of it, 50 meetings. And somehow all these meetings just have slid into one great big meeting where faces and names could be interchanged. And there were acts, the first act, where are you from? How did you get into writing? All this stuff. And you can become bored by your own voice and your own answers. And I would try and accelerate through this stuff so I didn't have to answer all the stuff that I didn't really want to talk about, i.e. my background, why I wrote. But this was the most important part of the meeting.
Louise.
And if you miss out on this part of the meeting, then you're probably blowing the meeting. 50% of getting a job in Hollywood is about people being comfortable with you and thinking, oh, I can hang out with that person. And if you just whiz through and skip to the selling bit, then you're missing on the whole human connection of things.
Now that's a proper introduction.
So make a human connection, and we're lucky in this because the chances are that you and the individual share one common passion, which is films and TV. And we love talking about films and TV. And films and TV are actually very revealing about someone's psychology and also about their tastes. Step number 3 is unlock their taste buds. So we're asking them what they like, what things they've been watching. And these aren't idle questions. And when they ask you what you've been watching, you should have a list of things, talking points, shows that you want to talk about, not just because you love them. It's not idle selections. It's because you're talking about shows that inspire you and that reveal things about you as a writer. So it is a truism that you can reveal a lot about your writing by talking about other writers you admire. So step number 4, you've got to nail the 3 big questions. So there will be a point in the meeting where they very casually say, oh, so what are you working on? And very casually you'll say, blah, 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 25 words or less. But in this 25 words or less, or the aftermath, you have to answer the 3 big questions, which is, why did you choose this project? Why now? And why you as the writer? Why only you can execute it? If you can give the exec a reason why you're writing this project that goes beyond, I want to sell you something and make a living, it sucks the cynicism out of the room, and somehow they become part of this altruistic endeavor to get art made, or to get something made because only you could work on it and write it. Step number 5 is don't show them too many pens. So after school, I worked in my year off in a stationery shop selling fountain pens. And some days I'd sell a ton of fountain pens. And some days I'd sell none, and I figured out what it was. If I got out a Schaefer, a Parker, a Mont Blanc, a Cross, a couple of ball pens, a rollerball, more often than not, I wouldn't make a sale. But if I got out a Parker Duofold and a Mont Blanc Meisterstück and put that down as a more exclusive sell, that it was one or the other, I had a much better environment to make a sale. If you are asked what you're working on and you say one thing, they say, oh, that's a bit like something else we got in development. And then you mention, well, there's this other thing I've got. and they don't respond to that, turn it back on them. Otherwise, you're just pulling out projects and you're devaluing them. You're showing them too many pens. The sixth thing you need to do is remember Sinatra. A couple of years ago, I blew a meeting and a sale. Our agency had sent a script into Morgan Creek, this distributor, producer who wanted to buy it. And we were told it was just a formality. We needed to go in and meet the big boss, who was Guy McElwain. Real Hollywood old-timer, real tough guy. We had this meeting. It was an absolute barnstormer until I opened my mouth. And I said that the trick to a good remake was to remake something that wasn't that good in the first place. So, for instance, Ocean's 11. And McElwain, he narrowed his eyes to me and he growled, "I worked on that movie. I was Sinatra's publicist." 5 minutes later, the meeting kind of ended pretty quickly and they didn't buy our spec. So remember Sinatra, never slag off anybody else's stuff. Be defined by what you love, not what you don't like. It's a small town. And step number 7 is most of these meetings are intelligence gathering operations. That's the biggest thing you can get out of it.
The reason why Google and Facebook are the most powerful companies in the world is because data is the most valuable asset on Earth.
So write down everything you learn in the meeting. And that sounds so obvious, but you'd be surprised. If you have 5 meetings a day and you're running between meetings, it's very easy not to put down the intel. So, dictaphone, talk into your phone, put your notes in, and you can write them up later. So that in 18 months' time, when you come back, you remember that that guy or that girl that you met is interested in a particular area and you have something in that space. So to recap, how to ace your next producer or agent meeting. Tip number 1, do the recon, not just on the individual, but also the company. Tip number 2, remember to be human and make a human connection. Tip number 3, try and unlock their taste buds. And when they try and unlock yours, make sure that the things you talk about are strategically relevant to you as a writer, the films, the TV shows that you love. Tip number 4 is answer the 3 questions. Why you, why this project, and why now? Tip number 5 is don't show them too many pens. It'll make you sound like a used car salesman and devalue what you're selling. Tip number 6 is remember Sinatra, it's a small town. And tip number 7 is file away the intel for future use.
I do know that their targeting tool was considered a weapon.
Scriptfella, out.
And I still fear for your life.